An oasis by the pyramids at Giza, late 19th century. This photograph was taken before Egypt became a tourist mecca and conveys all the atmosphere of mystery and tranquility that surrounded the ancient monuments. Actress Jane Seymour in the 70s. She became world famous after her role as a Bond girl in Live and Let Die, and later played the lead role in the series Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, becoming a symbol of elegance and femininity. The assembly line at the Mercedes-Benz plant in Germany, 1951. Even in the post-war devastation, German industry was recovering quickly, and cars with a three-pointed star were once again becoming a symbol of quality and prestige. Hop pickers in England used stilts, 1928. This centuries-old tradition allowed workers to move quickly between the tall rows of plants, turning ordinary agricultural work into a real circus performance. The suspension bridge in Capilano Canyon, Canada, 1905. In an era when safety was a voluntary matter, these elegantly dressed ladies and gentlemen strolled without any fear on the rickety structure over a turbulent river. This is 18-year-old Madonna Ciccone in 1976, when she was a ballet student at the University of Michigan. 2 years later, she would drop out and, with $35 in her pocket, leave to conquer New York to become the queen of pop music. Apollo 17 astronaut Harrison Schmitt undergoes a final suit check before his flight to the moon in 1972. At the astronaut's request, a small strip of Velcro was glued inside the helmet so they could scratch their nose during the long hours of work in space. U.S. President Richard Nixon bowls at the White House. He was such an avid player that he ordered a bowling lane to be built right under the north portico so he could relax at any time. Two literary giants, Ernest Hemingway and Roald Dahl, on a walk in London, 1944. At the time, Dahl was a military pilot and Hemingway was a war correspondent, and this meeting of two future classics took place against the backdrop of the raging Second World War. A car showroom in 1931 when buying a car was a real event. Elegant interiors with tiled floors and wooden columns turned an ordinary car dealership into a palace where the main stars of that era, the cars, shone. This is not just Winona, but Winona Ryder and Keanu Reeves in the early 90s. Their friendship, which began on the set of Dracula, was so strong that they still jokingly call each other husband and wife after a real wedding ceremony on the set. Wembley Stadium is roaring with the Live Aid charity concert in 1985, and its organizer, Bob Geldof, is insistently whispering something to Princess Diana. At that moment, Prince Charles seemed to be the only person on the planet more interested in looking the other way. A 17-year-old girl prepares for her wedding in 1956. In an era when early marriages were the norm and a career for a woman was something secondary, this day was the main event in her life. A golf ball collector? The 20s. In an era before automatic systems to collect balls on a driving range, a person had to wear this ridiculous wire cage to protect himself from accidental hits. Athens in 1862 and in the present day. In a century and a half, the small town at the foot of the ancient Acropolis has turned into a giant metropolis. But Lycabettus Hill still remains its main landmark, as it was hundreds of years ago. This is Margarita Carmen Cancino, before Hollywood transformed her into Rita Hayworth. To become a star, she had to undergo a painful procedure to change her hairline and dye her hair red, proving that in the 40s, the path to the big screen lay through a complete change of identity. Vivian Bales, one of the first female bikers in 1929 on her Harley. While most women of her generation dreamed of marriage, she rode thousands of miles across America alone, proving that the road and freedom are not just for men. Audrey Hepburn, in a ballet class. As a child, during the Nazi occupation of Holland, she suffered from malnutrition but continued to perform secretly, raising money for the Dutch resistance. Martin Luther King, after his arrest for organizing a bus boycott in Alabama, 1956. He was arrested almost 30 times but never stopped his fight for civil rights, eventually becoming one of America's greatest heroes. The gymnasium for first-class passengers on board the Titanic, 1912. The most modern exercise equipment of the time was installed here, including an electric horse, so that wealthy gentlemen could stay in shape even while traveling across the Atlantic. Students of one of Sweden's first schools for girls with the right to higher education, 1908. While the world stood on the brink of great upheavals, these serious faces in austere dresses were already preparing to fight for their rights and change society from within. Harrison Ford as Colonel Lucas in Francis Ford Coppola's film Apocalypse Now. This small but memorable role was one of the first in his career before he became Han Solo and Indiana Jones. In 1957, a 4-ton snowcat named Rock and Roll dangled over a chasm, nearly ending the first-ever trans-Antarctic expedition. The crew had to spend hours building a snow bridge, proving that in Antarctica, the most dangerous enemy is a road that doesn't exist. Sean Connery eats spaghetti in Rome in 1971 during the filming of Diamonds Are Forever. The actor returned to the role of Bond for a record-breaking fee at the time, but even Agent 007 sometimes needed to just relax and enjoy some Italian pasta. This is not just a parade, but the first automobile run in St. Louis, 1904. These primitive cars, more like horseless carriages, were a true marvel of technology and a symbol of the coming new era. One of the first Coca-Cola delivery trucks, 1909. At a time when cars were still a rarity, the company was already creating its own fleet, understanding that speed of delivery was the key to conquering the American market. Private Elvis Presley during his U.S. Army service in Germany, 1959. Even at the peak of his fame, the king of rock and roll didn't dodge the draft, earning him great respect from the older generation of Americans. American soldiers in Vietnam in 1971 under a flag with a peace symbol. This picture is a vivid testament to how unpopular this war was, even among those who were forced to participate in it. Natalie Wood on the set of the film Penelope. Throughout her life, she had a panic fear of water, but for the sake of a role, she had to overcome her fear, proving that a true actress is ready to do anything for art. Roger Moore, who played James Bond, in Venice on the set of the film Moonraker, 1979. A unique hovercraft gondola was created especially for the film, turning Agent 007 into a real racer. Steven Spielberg and his main character on the set of the film E.T. the Extraterrestrial in 1982. To maintain the element of surprise, Spielberg forbade photographing the puppet until the very end, and this picture became one of the few taken during production. African-American migrants from Florida heading to New Jersey for work, 1940. This photograph is part of a large photo chronicle of the Great Migration, when millions of Black Americans left the racist South in search of a better life in the North. The Ministry of Finance in Kabul, 1966. This modern building in the modernist style is a reminder that before the war, Afghanistan was a secular and developing country, open to the world. British actress Madeline Smith, 1971. She was one of the great beauties of British cinema in the 70s, and her roles in comedy and horror films made her a true icon of her era. The construction of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, the 30s. This photograph, taken at the initial stage of construction, shows the grand scale of the project and the courage of the workers who built one of the most famous bridges in the world. Los Angeles, 1962. The night lights, neon signs, and cars speeding through the streets. This is what the City of Angels looked like in its heyday, when it was not just a city, but a symbol of the American dream. New York, Broadway, 1976. Neon signs, bright shop windows, and eternally rushing passers-by. This photograph perfectly captures the atmosphere of the Big Apple in the 70s, when the city was both dangerous and incredibly alluring. A young Simon Cowell in 1987. In this modest guy with a funny hairstyle, it's hard to recognize the future formidable judge of music shows and one of the most influential people in the global entertainment industry. The only illegal photograph taken in the U.S. Supreme Court chamber, 1932. Photographer Eric Salomon hid a camera in a cast, faking a broken arm, and secretly took this historic picture, violating the strictest ban. The supersonic passenger jet Concorde flies over a beach. For the vacationers, it was a real free air show, and for the whole world, a symbol of a technological breakthrough and a future that unfortunately never came. Actress Jane Mansfield at a football match in London, 1959. The crowd of tens of thousands of stern British fans seems to have completely forgotten about the game and is looking only at America's main sex symbol, the coronation of Elizabeth II, 1953. While the whole world watched the historic ceremony with bated breath, little Prince Charles seems to be frankly bored, not understanding the full importance of the moment.